As a forensic psychology student, I'm going to weigh in on the Taylor Frankie Paul situation with Dakota. I'm not 100% sure that she's the aggressor in this situation. I've made a couple videos on this and people are a little bit confused as to why. And then some people also agree that it looks like reactive abuse. So I'm going to go more in depth with this. Not only have we talked about reactive abuse, where it's essentially a reaction to someone after you've been in a prolonged domestic violence relationship, whether that involves physical, emotional, sexual abuse, psychological manipulation that alters your reality, gaslighting. You're reacting to prolonged abuse. You're just not taking it anymore. The statistics show that men most of the time are the aggressors in comparison to women who are typically the victims of domestic violence. But that doesn't mean that women can also not be the aggressors in situations, because there's plenty of times where people switch that around. DARVO is deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender, meaning that if I'm a narcissistic person, I'm going to alter your reality so freaking hard that I'm going to make sure that everybody looks at you as the aggressor, and that when you freak out because of reactive abuse, I'm going to somehow capture that moment so that everyone can see, look, it's really you that's crazy, not me. Despite people knowing this, when it gets thrown in their face, almost always do people look the other way. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things that you have to experience or quite literally study for how manipulative somebody can be. This is all speculation, by the way. We don't even all know the information. We all can't really formulate a big opinion on this because we don't have all of the evidence. And as a forensic psychologist, you're not supposed to just analyze one incident. You're supposed to look at the entire behavior overall. And from what I have seen on social media, Dakota's not innocent as well. We've heard Macy talk about how he sabotages Taylor in different events, and their arguments seem to always, even on the show, be shown in some fashion that Dakota's lying or talking to the family and trying to get Taylor's family to agree with him, and Taylor flips out because he's again lying or whatever the case may be. It seems very manipulative from what we have seen on TV. And the video, regardless, is bad. Domestic violence is bad, even reactive abuse. Like, we understand where it comes from, but it still doesn't take away from some of the behaviors. But it's so hard to leave a domestic violence situation. I'm telling you, unless you've been in it, it is so mind-altering. It's easier said than done. It's so easier said than done. Some people's trauma responses with an ongoing relationship that's toxic can show a lot of emotional dysregulation, impulsive reactions, panic-driven behavior, or difficulty leaving the relationship. On average, it can take someone at least 7 times to leave a domestic violence relationship. 7 times. With each time they tell their aggressor that they want to leave the relationship being one of the highest probabilities to be murdered for trying to leave your aggressor. The way that someone responds to trauma in a domestic violence relationship, by this back and forth cycle, breaking up, getting back together, not leaving, but knowing it's bad for them, looks bad from the outside looking in. Again, unless you've experienced it. It's mind-bending, but you have to remember, this is a pattern. Why? It's because of trauma bonding. Yes, I'm adding this in as I'm editing because I forgot to talk about trauma bonding. It's a psychological attachment that forms between a victim and an abusive partner between repeated cycles of harm followed by relief, affection, or calmness. So you'll see an escalation of violence, the argument or physical act that is done, and then the relieving of like, I love you, baby, I'll never do it again. Everything's okay. We're so intense. I love you. I've never felt this type of love before. And it goes into like a reconciliation. And then you have the cycle of abuse happen again, where it starts with the argument and then it's just a cyclical aspect. It's really easy for the public to say who's the aggressor or not. Even with me saying that I think Taylor is suffering from reactive abuse, we're not 100% sure. I could be wrong based on the information we are provided now. However, with that being said, I'm open to discussion for both sides. I'm only talking about the reactive abuse right now because that's what I've seen thus far, but that doesn't mean that opinions cannot change. So when you're looking at a situation, don't be so settled in your answer because you could be surprised. Be open to everything. Try not to have a biased opinion and formulate your own answer. There's going to be new information that comes out, so don't feel like you have to stick to one thing just because you've said it before. Cases change all the time. You have to pay attention to the information. New people talk, new evidence is provided, new things are discredited all the time. So when this case is going on, let's gather information, analyze, and if new information comes, we need to put forth that effort too and keep the ball rolling. Let's not keep anyone in a solidified state. Even if she ends up being the aggressor, we're going to learn something from it. We'll have new information from the media, new information from evidence if it's submitted into court, and then we can talk about it and we can show how it looked like reactive abuse now. And then when new information comes out, because again, we don't know everything right now. And if it ends up being she's the aggressor, let's talk about it. Let me tell you how society reacts, how I even thought she was in a reactive abuse situation. Because I'm telling you, even with the court system, you could have all the facts in the world. At the end of the day, it's who tells the story better. I like this look. I love putting oil in my hair to grow.